Show of hands, who's had a chastity talk? What? That's awesome.
Jason
and
What is a chastity?
you were there, Jason Ever?
Jason, yeah, Mary had it twice. I had to. Yeah, I watched it twice.
Okay, so
At my school and.
that's a little high of a bar, but okay. But this is going to be different. So, see, I'm going to test this here. There we go. I got a little pointer just for this. And I think I have a. Oh yeah, I have a laser pointer too. So. All right, you guys know Tom? He's retired now. So here's my ask, and I hope you like my PowerPoint slides because I spent a good amount of time on them. So I want you guys to participate. I want this to be, a back and forth. Okay. I don't want this to be a lecture. I know I mentioned I'm 31, but I still feel very young. Okay. And I remember what it was like to be in high school. Like really, I do. And I want you guys to ask questions if they come up. You do not need to wait till the end. So, wait for a pause, but please feel free to ask them. Let's have some fun. It's not supposed to be like, oh, it's a serious sex talk, okay? We can have some fun with it, okay? It's not a joke, but we don't have to be too serious about it. So, oh, wrong way. Okay. First question. What do you want in life? And I'm gonna hopefully have everyone participate. So I need some bold volunteers to jump out there, and I know it's a big question, but yeah, just give me something.
Sure.
Like, I mean, what do you guys want in life? I mean, you've probably thought about it, right? Hopefully.
So
Stable insanity.
Okay, we'll take it.
We were talking today, kind of about what we wanted to do with our life. And
Yeah.
There's all this talk, I don't know, especially nowadays, with fellow girls or whatever, and they're like, oh, I want to be like a strong, independent woman, but then that's all cool and stuff, but I don't know, having a family would be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know, being a mom, I feel like in our society, especially a stay-at-home mom, is really looked down upon. So you're joking around to I don't know, maybe learn how to cook, and we'd call it a wifey club.
Yeah. I like it.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
That's what I want too.
I like it.
You and me. Yeah, I'm about it.
The wifey club.
So how about this one? Happiness.
Yep.
How's that word? Who wants happiness? I hope everyone. So if I probably got more of you to talk, I think one of you would have said happiness. So this is my guy. When you see this dude, this means participate, okay? These slides, I want you to look at this guy. When you see that, that means I want you guys to participate, okay? I'm putting very easy clues in for you guys, okay? So this is my dude, all right? Middle class fancy meme.
We got Liam. He's laughing.
I love that.
Oh, my dude. I don't know everyone's name, but we'll find you. Is
that all that took? Is that all that took?
He probably recognizes him.
It's Ryan Reynolds got hit by a car.
Okay, so you mentioned, thank you for talking, and happiness, and you guys are students right now, obviously, but I mean, when you go to achieve that happiness, what's next? I mean, what's next for you guys after school?
Living life.
Which is?
It's more specific.
All of school, college too.
Yeah, college, and then what?
Oh yeah.
Then what?
The work.
Probably.
Yeah, okay. So we're searching for happiness.
right now. But yeah, just getting a good job, I guess.
Okay.
For me is a big goal. But
Yeah.
something, I think a phrase I use a lot is that making enough money so I don't have to worry about
Sure.
money.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Finding people that I like to be around and spending more time with them.
Ooh, that's a winner. We're gonna hold on to that one too. Yeah.
Achieving my American dream.
Yep. Okay. They'll sell you.
Also, finding a vocation, something you really care about.
Ooh.
Like a job.
Okay, vocation.
Or
We're gonna hold on to that word. Yeah.
Following God wherever He wants you to be.
Yep. We love that, of course.
Interacting, learning about new people and going places, not just staying in your little bubble.
Yeah. So my point here is, I used to think this way. I used to think what's next in my life, right? I went to college, and I was like, okay, what's next? I got a good job. All right, well, what's next? Oh, well, now I want a girlfriend. You know, what's next? I'm gonna go live alone. I'm gonna get move cities. You know, get married, which I did. You know, but we can't stop thinking, you know, just what's next. We have to understand these big questions. This is why I'm asking you guys. So I mentioned happiness. Harvard has actually been doing a study for over 80 years. Has anyone heard about this happiness study? The intern has. Yeah. So the results are very, very clear about what makes people happy. You know, and it's not money. It's not the American dream. They're studying it with hundreds of people for over 80 years, and it's still going on today. And there's actually something you said about being around people has something to do with that. Does anyone take a wild guess?
It's a good surrounding. Yes.
Has to do with people.
Like good community, like
Love.
Yes, I mean,
not being
It's
like
part of-
being selfless, like having people to take care of. So like you're giving people things instead of
Giving
like generosity or something.
I mean, you're circling around it. It's relationships. So Harvard has scientifically proven, because a lot of people say, oh yeah, you know, this religious stuff, right? Science says this. Well, I'm telling you, science says happiness, and we're going to work from that, right? Because we should trust Harvard. So the most important relationship, and therefore we can conclude that this is going to be your biggest indicator of happiness in your life. And when I'm talking mentally, physically, and emotionally, I mean, they literally, this Harvard study has shown that happier people are physically healthier. You mentioned vocation, I think. You did, thank you. Sorry. We're all called to a vocation. And for most of you, that's going to be marriage. And, you know, this does, you know, relate specifically to that. But as we'll see later, no matter what life you choose for your vocation, they are all relevant to what we're going to be talking about.
And everything involves relationships with your friends, with the people that you work with your family. Everything goes around relationships.
Yeah, and so, oh, it's the guy. Participate. Okay. So what was popular, or what used to be popular that, or cool that isn't anymore? Yeah.
Among Us.
Among Us. Okay, that's a good example. For me, when I was in junior high, I did like the ski flip with my hair.
Frosted tips?
I didn't do frosted tips. My dad wouldn't let me. But I would like gel my hair up like crazy. I didn't tie my shoes. It wasn't cool to show your laces. I mean, you know, these were the early 2000s. You guys don't probably understand. I mean, but
2000s pop punk bands.
yeah. I mean, is it so?
Yeah.
But
Jeggings are cool anymore.
Wheelies.
yeah, right. So here's my point.
These are my sister has some.
So here's my point. I don't know if you can see this tweet, but at some point in your lives, you will be told, or you're going to hear this message that sex is cool before marriage, or that it's okay. Show of hands, has anyone heard that? Okay. Or if you've seen a tweet like this. I see them all the time. It's a huge joke, obviously. But sex is not a joke. We're now in a sexual devolution. The sexual revolution was before all our times, but it was this idea that if we can just kind of break free from this whole sex only in marriage thing, you know, and this was the same time Playboy came about, same time internet pornography came about, and it was the same time that the birth control came about. So all these things were like, we really need to free us. This music's getting really intense. And then I'm gonna pause the music. I thought it'd be nice, but okay, we'll turn it off. Okay. It's like, wow. Okay. So anyway, so I could show you guys 100 articles that prove and that show that it failed. All right, and the scientifically, religiously, culturally, sexual revolution is not working. People aren't happy, and we'll see. And I'll let you talk about that. So,
Yeah, and of course we can see it. As Lila Rose said, I don't know who of you guys know who is she.
Yeah.
She says that when sex is treated as cheap, life is treated as cheap. That's how we are living these days in this culture. I mean, there is no value for life, value for dignity of each other, treating others with dignity. like zero.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but that's just not really the world I want to live in. One more.
The Tinder phenomenon, that's also a major technological revolution, because what it's done, I would say, for the first time, is reduce the cost of rejection to males to zero, because it hides it. The only people you ever hear from are people who haven't rejected you. One of the other things that you want to think about with regards to sex, and I think this is probably particularly true for women, is that to what degree is it in women's interests to allow the cost of sex to fall to zero? Because with pornography certainly does that. And it just seems to me that that's not a very good long-term strategy for relationships between men and women, because whatever sex is worth, the cost of zero is the wrong price. I've been very curious about apps like Tinder. And I talked to Abigail Schreier about this the other day, because there's some evidence that young people are having much less sex than they were 20 years ago.
It's true. I could show you guys a lot of stats that say that. Part of the sexual revolution fail. But it's not working. And you guys are hopefully not on Tinder. But...
Millennials.
Huh? Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. And yeah, I mean, people are lonely and they're looking for something and they're not finding it.
I think it's just like because of like all the stuff that's happening in this world, it's like hard for people to trust. So it's like that's kind of I feel like why it's gone down. Because there's like so much that goes on in this world, and then people see that, and it's like a chain effect. I feel like.
Well, I think we'll get there, but the answer's simple. So I already talked about this. Are we better off? No, of course we're not. We've got more people living together, not getting married, just have less marriage overall, same divorce rates, more loneliness, more suicide, more depression, more anxiety, less happiness, less purpose, and less love. And I could prove all that to you if I had more time. I see articles like this all the time. You know, these studies that show that people are just unhappy when they have all these sex partners. And, you know, the number one problem in marriage these days, sex becomes non-existent. And they're falling apart. And it's breaking up families. And I don't know about you guys, but these are the cultural messages that I hear, you know, on social media and TV shows and movies, is that sex isn't a big deal. You know, everybody watches porn. Moving in together is a good idea. You know, use contraception, safe sex. Baby's going to ruin your life. Divorce is inevitable. Oh, it's consensual. Nobody's getting hurt. You know, has anybody heard messages like this? Yeah, of course. And they're subliminal sometimes, you know, but they're deeply over and over and over again. We hear them, and yeah, eventually you might start to believe them. Anybody see this? Yeah, it went viral, especially in the religious community. I'm not really going to talk about porn much. You know, maybe you can read about what she had to say about it, but you know, this is the cost of sex being reduced to nothing because it reduces people to nothing. And yeah, it does a number on your brain. And you know, I'll admit I've had some struggles with porn in my past, and I can tell you firsthand, it's devastating for your brain. But I never had a talk like this, and I never had the resources I think are available today because I was part of the upbringing of the internet. So there wasn't even, you know, nobody knew what to do. You know, my dad didn't know about locking down the internet. I mean, so yeah, it's for how accessible we have it with our phones. Like, we got to be careful with this stuff.
And you don't even have to be religious to, you know, notice that this doesn't work.
I'm big on science, and you know, you can prove all this stuff. So here you go. If you don't think sex is a big deal, don't expect it to be anything special in marriage forever. And that is a quote by me, yours truly. Okay, I did make that, so I have something going. So what's the problem? Maybe this is something you were getting to, but you know, we all want love. I think you said love, but we're hitting lust. You know, I could just pepper this all over here. Like, you know, the stories we grew up with, they're always about love, right? The fairy tales, the movies, the TV shows, they're all centered around this. Oh, everyone's looking for love. You know, and then we see people jump into bed together. But I think we all want it, right? Marriages still fall apart. Maybe you guys have seen that in your own lives, but why are people still wanting to get married? Why do they still have this desire in their heart? Why is it a dream? of so many people to still get married, even if divorce isn't a 50-50 shot.
Desire.
Of course, it's a desire by God. Oh. So what is lust? Do you guys know what lust is?
That's a great picture.
It's when you like see a person as just like kind of their sexual like they're as a sexual being and not like a
Human being.
yeah. So
That's
you just look
exactly
like-
what it is.
Sexual
And you don't
object.
care about like who they are. As a
Yeah,
person.
it's this kind of uncontrollable sexual impulse that you can just be with your eyes or your heart, or it can be acted upon. And it actually is the opposite of love. Love is to want the best for another person, and it's using someone. The opposite of love is not hate. It's to use, or apathy, to not care. And does anybody know why I put this up here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna get to second base with her, right? Like,
Oh wait, is that like home base? There's a heart.
No, it's
How can you
Pentagon.
see that?
no.
That's a
Here?
No, right
Yeah.
there. Yeah, right
It's
there.
talking about the home
That's
plate.
Oh no, it's just a home place. But I think you guys know the analogy, right? Like, how far can I go with it? That's not what this talk is
I thought
about.
that was a radar at first because I'm a baseball person.
No. No.
It's on me though.
Yeah, we live in this, the hookup, lust, or I just call it the self culture. The self-help book sections, they're getting bigger every year. You can make yourself happy, you can love yourself on your own. It's not working.
And with this, we don't want to say that, self-care is bad, because of course it's good to take care of your heart, of your body, but it's not just about us. It's not about ourselves only. And this is what love is about, get out of myself. Notice that there is another person here that is worth my respect and has a dignity, and that I need to respect that.
Yeah, she's always like helping me say the right things, so thank you. Keeping me in check. Thanks me more. I love this quote: love can wait to give and lust can't wait to get. We live in an instant gratification culture where we want everything right now. And I can promise you, through a lot of failed experiences, that that's not how it works. If true love is something you're really after. Temptation, I'm going to assume everyone knows about the serpent in the garden. Adam and Eve, they get caught. What does Adam do?
Blames their
Yeah, it's Eve's fault. She told me to do it. This is what the devil does. We can't just pretend he doesn't exist. But he wants to divide. And he does it through this temptation because sin has to look attractive, right? If it wasn't, then nobody would do it. But that's not how it works. We're all affected by original sin. And so, I wanted to bring it up because the temptations will never stop. I think this guy was asked, he was like 90 years old, and he's like, when do the temptations, stop? And he said, never. So it's why we have to be on our game and know the things and know what's best for us, right? Because you don't need a rule to not kill your best friend, right? I know it sounds ridiculous, but you don't need someone from a Bible verse to tell you that you shouldn't do that. But when it comes to things like lust, we do need rules, right? And that's what the church is here for, to not impose rules to restrict your freedom, but to get us to that place where we don't need them because we know what we want. And of course, what happens afterwards when we do fall into temptation, right? What does the devil do? Look what you did. You're nothing.
Shame.
Yeah. And I'm sure you guys have all dealt with shame. It's not guilt. Guilt is okay. It means we know we did something wrong. But shame is, this disruption of who we are, right? And sometimes, things happen to us that we can't even control and we experience shame. But, God wants to take that away, right? He bears all things. And, look at this guy. This guy knows what he's talking about. This is G.K. Chesterton. Every man who knocks on the door of a brothel is looking for God. Does anybody know what a brothel is?
Yeah, it's like a prostitute, like a whorehouse.
Yeah. Yeah, you could just, back in the day, go and I think they still have them around the world. But I don't know if you guys understand what this is saying, but this lust culture, like, people are actually looking for God when they're doing that because they're looking for love. And
Just not looking from the right places.
yeah, and hopefully we should know that God is love, and they're looking for that. They're looking for that relationship because they want to be happy. And yeah, they might feel good for a few minutes, and then they're going to go home with shame and feel miserable, right?
There was a saint, I don't remember her name, but she used to say that we have God-shaped eyes.
Oh, our heart is God-shaped or something.
That, sorry, English is not my first language, but you got it. The thing is that everything that we want to, everything that we usually follow, and the things that we use to satisfy that hunger in our hearts, at the end they just leave us more empty, because of course we were created for God, and the only one who can satisfy our deepest desires is Him.
Yeah, and trust me, I've tried everything else. I can promise you. So, God's plan. Does anybody know God's plan for you?
Drake.
If anybody remember who was here last year, you were. I said this in my other talk. What is God's plan for us?
To be
with Him, heaven.
Yes, we'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
He wants you to become the best version of yourself. I'm always hammering this home. Matthew Kelly said that. It means to be a saint, right? Sainthood. We're all striving to be saints, right? And I love this picture. This was an AI-generated picture. I think you said it was based off the cloth.
The Turin mantle.
Yeah. So this is probably a pretty good idea of what Jesus looked like. But yeah, he wasn't just a nice guy, as some people want to say, though. But love. I mean, this was love, right? And it's hard to understand him on the cross and seeing that as love. But the whole Bible, if you start to understand it, is a love story, right? The church, we the people, are married to Jesus, right? Who's the bridegroom. So I just think I want us to understand, like, that's who we're following, and the church is based off, right, his teachings. And talking about the church's view on sex, I mean, did anybody grow up, or it's okay, you can admit it, that this is, the church's stance on sex? Anybody grow up thinking that? 'Cause I did.
I did too.
I thought there was just no sex here. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't talked about in my family. I had a sex talk in school. It was weird. And yeah, it just was kind of this dark, dirty thing, and I already mentioned I got caught up in porn, and I remember I saw a movie in 4th grade, Gone in 60 Seconds. Has anyone seen that? Yeah, Ethan, of course you have. Yeah.
We're the same age.
Nick Cage, Angelina Jolie, they're watching this sex scene, and I was like, I feel weird. I don't know what's going on. And I told my mom about it. She made some phone calls. But I didn't know. Like, I didn't. Nobody talked to me about this stuff. But I think you guys already know. You guys are smart. Sex is good. It's very good, and that's why the church isn't. The message, the culture, they get crossed, right? The church says sex is very good, and that's why we're trying to protect it from this culture that has totally failed its experiment with this, sexual freedom. I just want to quickly mention what it's for. You guys know it's for procreation, of course, but it's also for unity, and I think that's something that is not talked about as much because, yeah, most of the time sex is not going to result in a baby, but it's God's plan to bring people closer together. And we say make love, but it's actually not really the right term because we can't make love. But it's a holy act, at least when it's done in marriage. And so God is love. He made sex, and so He has a plan for our relationships. He has a plan to make us, the happiest that we want to be. Here we go. So who do you think has better sex? Young singles, we'll just say like some college kids fooling around, or older especially holy, married couples?
Definitely older.
No.
How old?
I will tell you exactly how old because this is from a study. They were in their 50s.
Ew.
It was I have you right here. I know, gross. So, but it's true. You can Google, married couples have better sex. It's true.
I
But
don't want that almost.
you say that now. So remember, we're putting this together. We're putting this story together. I'm a very logical person. Relationships keep us happy. Happiness really is holiness. Jesus tells us how to be happy, right? How to free us to be happy. And chastity is what this talk is actually about. And is the cornerstone, which just means, this is what our holiness needs to be based off of, especially in our times. And do you guys know what chastity is? You guys said you had a talk, so you guys should already know, right?
I kind of remember it. It's like putting sex in its like a proper like place, like for like loving someone and like seeing them as like a person first and not as an object.
Yeah, I'll take it. It's not abstinence or virginity. I just want to get that out of the way. You guys know what virginity is? Abstinence just means not having sex. And yes, there will be times in your life where you can't have sex, even if you want to, right?
Even when you're married.
Yep.
Exactly.
Holy and habitual self-control of sexual impulses, right? So it's being in control of yourself. And it sounds ridiculous, like, oh yeah, I'm in control of myself. But, when someone's caught up in lust, and again, I can tell you from first experience, from my past, like, you don't really have control. And you're not free at all. And just talk to someone who's, in a porn addiction, like, they're not free at all.
And sometimes people, thinks that, I'll get cured of this when I get married.
Oh.
But on the contrary, it
Yeah.
enhances it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important, to start practicing chastity, before you get married, because of course that'll make you value the other person since the beginning. I feel like for me, chastity is being loyal to your future spouse even before you know him or her. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a good image too, because like, I don't know, I feel like some people like look at those certain things and like how like we whatever, because it says a lot, I feel like, about a person, about like what they do or like whatever it may be.
Yeah. And there's always a sense of shame associated with these things, right? Like, someone knew what I was searching for or looking at, right? It has to be done in the dark. Like, that's shame.
I wasn't taught like self-image by my mom and like
Yeah.
how important that is.
Yeah, that's a great lesson because, it's something I certainly have struggled with in my life. Building, I think I'm still trying to figure out, like, who am I? Have you guys seen Zoolander? Like, who am I? Like, I feel like I'm having that moment in my life, in a good way, though.
I'm a merman, Dad.
Yeah, man. Don't get me started on the Zoolander stuff. I won't finish. So I think this is kind of the problem, though, and I will guarantee you that most people in the church think like this. They're like, yeah, these are the 7 deadly sins. You guys know, you're smart. Pride, greed, sloth, envy, wrath, gluttony, right? Like, yeah, I'm good with those. Like, I'm gonna be a holy saint when it comes to that. But the lust thing, I just can't do that. I've got my own system in place, right? I've got my own relationship with God. I got my own way of doing things. Does that sound like someone maybe right? This selective religion, or we call it behavioral atheism, right? I'll believe in God when I need him, or I'll do it my way. I mean, well then, actually, you're not really good with the pride then, right? And you're not good with the greed, because pride, greed, everything comes from pride.
And just when it's convenient for me too, for example. And sometimes we think, well, but God, why he wants to, to obligate us to behave certain way or the other one. And it's not because he's controlling God that he wants to, push yourself to do stuff. It's because he wants freedom and he wants happiness for you. And this is the way for freedom, not this,
Yeah.
the virtue. Avoiding these things, it's the safest way, to reach, a free life. And sometimes we think, like, that having sex and getting yourself controlled by these impulses is freedom. This is like the mistake of our society, being a slave of your own impulses, and we are called to do the contrary. We have to master our impulses, not our impulses master us.
Yeah. Almost done here. We got
Second,
one more
put it
video.
well when he said our freedom exists for the sake of love. It exists to be given
Sorry, I'm
away.
going 5 of them.
One other thing he mentioned was that our freedom is best measured by our capacity to love. You think about that. Your freedom is best measured by your capacity to love. So what is it that's taking away my freedom to love? Is it my pride? Is it my selfishness? Am I self-absorbed? Is it my lust? Is it anger? Is it impatience? To the degree that those things are keeping me from love, it's then that I'm not free.
We're very transactional in the world. You see, I give you $5. Guess what? I don't have $5. I give you my car. That means I don't have a car, right? And whenever I give something, I lose something. But the reality is that in God's plan, there's kind of an irony. The more I love, the more love I experience. And in fact, it's something that the more you give of it, the more you will experience it in your life.
And so every day, I am called to love in a way that is selfless and not putting me first, but really looking at him and saying, how can I help him?
Couple goals. But chastity requires purity. Trying to skip through this. I'm a little over time, sorry. But this is the body, soul, and mind. I mean, we think about the body so much, but the soul is really that, what does God want for us? Connecting that relationship with Jesus, having, that purity when we go to confession, and I don't know if you guys feel that like wave of like, I feel so much better. Getting your soul clean, and the mind. The mind is probably the most important these days, especially. And we've already said this, but he doesn't want to control you. He's trying to set you free, from this thing, or these things that we've been talking about, with lust. So I think, as we end up here, like, do you want to seduce someone or do you want to dignify them, right? We talk about lust and reducing someone to just whatever you get for your selfish gratification. I don't know about you, that's not the kind of man that I want to be. I've been that guy, and it's just made me unhappy. Gave me a lot of anxiety. It failed. It always fails. And I learned how to dignify people. And I learned that, thankfully, before I got married, so that I was able to do that with my wife. Because love does build up towards heaven, and lust grows old with the body. You hear about, celebrities breaking up all the time. You hear about marriages failing, and I can guarantee you that, they put their love in the body, and it grows boring every time. So, we have to end here on virginity. At least the way that I grew up, hearing talk about it, like senior prom, I'm going to lose my virginity, right?
Got no one to go to prom this year.
Yeah, you still got time, hopefully. And what it meant to say, well, I took her virginity, right? That's how they talk about it. But this is something that's supposed to be a gift, right? We're supposed to become gifts to one another, and our youth is supposed to, be a time to learn how to do this while, practicing chastity through abstinence, so that we have control of ourselves. Because trust me, it's not something you just grow out of, or you get married and you're like, oh, cool, everything's fixed. Because no, it's actually going to magnify the problem. Because you have to ask yourself, what's your body worth, right? It's a lot of question that people ask these days. Like when girls give themselves to guys, it's like, oh, well, I have to wait 3 months, or oh, I need to hear that he loves me, right? Like, no, he'll say whatever he needs to. What is the price of your body worth? I think that's marriage. I think that's a lifelong commitment to someone. And, if that's something that maybe you've already fallen to, you have a chance to start again. God can make that new.
Yeah, we are humans, we make mistakes, but we have a merciful God. And even if you lost your virginity in a painful situation, or someone took it, God can always heal that part of your life, and you can start again, in order to first dignify your body, dignify your life, and be the best version of yourself, and also, to honor your future spouse.
Yeah, because the reality is, we do get to start again, but you only get one shot with your future spouse. And I've never heard anyone that regretted waiting, and I can promise you that we didn't. Tell your friends. Sorry I went over. Done.
Yay!